So we're back with another episode sponsored by the Military Transition Roundtable. My name is Jason David, and today I have none other than Nathan Lahr. I hope I'm pronouncing your last name correctly. You're missing a vowel, I think, in your last name, and it confuses me. All these names confuse me. How are you today, Nate?
I'm doing just fine. How about yourself?
I'm good. I'm good. Hey, so we do these videos every once in a while to help military folks who are transitioning from active duty, guard, reserve into the civil sector, right? And trying to find ways to make their life a little bit easier, especially when we have folks that have gone through trials and tribulations that you just can't anticipate. And so your story in particular kind of caught me and Matt's eye, attention, and our heart because it was a situation that we didn't think people would be in. But here you are, and here you are trying to find a way out. And so I'd like to introduce you to the conversation, and maybe you could shed some light on what your military transition was like and some of the hurdles you've had to face.
Sure thing, Jason. I served in the Navy, fresh out of high school in 2014. I did about 5 years. I left about a month before my fifth anniversary in 2019. I served the United States Navy in the Navy Nuclear Power Propulsion Program. I served on the Harry S. Truman, did one deployment. All around, before my medical situation that eventually got me discharged, everything was doing pretty well. Yeah, don't regret doing it at all. Eventually, I developed some mental health issues that made me unfit for the nuke program and unfit for sea duty. So I was then discharged. Now, what happened is the Truman was about to go out on another deployment, so they kind of wanted to get me off before the ship left. So instead of doing a full medical board and stuff like that, I got an admin separation. And so what happened is I actually had reenlisted a couple years, a little while prior, put on E5. It was the star reenlistment. So I went up in rank, got a bonus, stuff like that. Well, about a year later, my mental health took a tank, and I eventually was discharged. And after that, I just kind of, thankfully, I had a good connection, and I was able to land a job pretty quickly after the Navy. And I did that for several years. That job ended, and I got to where I'm working now in a data center. And then, not, a couple of years, about 2 years ago, I get a letter in the mail saying, "Hey, you owe us money for that reenlistment contract you did. You didn't fulfill the contract. We want our bonus money back." My response was, I was discharged for a mental health reason, and thanks to Matt and the MTR team, I had gotten a full version of my DT-214. I had just gotten an abbreviated version from the ship when I left, and I had to go hunting for the original one. And actually ended up going to the VA in Ohio in order to find that. Thanks to Matt and the team for bringing that up. Of hey, where did you say you sent your VA stuff when you were getting out? Because they'll have a copy of it, and that's when I remembered I was doing Ohio because that's where I was living with my folks at the time. And so after that, I was pushing back. I'm like, no, I got my disability. I'm 50% disability for this mental health stuff. And I fall under the category of I don't have to pay this back because this is a serious medical disability. Well, because of the way that they did it, and the fact that it was an admin separation instead of a medical separation, technically they still could come after me. So I decided to fight it, 2 years ago. And so because I wasn't paying on it, because I said this isn't right, I'm not going to pay something that isn't justified. I ended up getting a 15% garnishment on all my wages and bonuses. And then thanks to the MTR team and some of our connections, I actually got in touch with one of the officers at the Millington uh, Personnel Command for the Navy. And turns out my reenlistment contract wasn't even in my file at all. So not only was my discharge not done properly, they didn't even have a copy of the reenlistment contract they were citing. Because when you fight things, you have to prove to the military and you have to provide them the paperwork instead of them having the paperwork already. So after that started, I started moving up the chain of command all the way up to a civilian that works for the CNO, a DCNO, who took on my case and not only continued it, but also found the reenlistment contract and forwarded it on. It went all the way up to SecNav's office. Maybe not the Secretary of Navy themselves, but somebody in their circle. And a couple of weeks ago, it came back that they ruled in my favor. They said technically, with the way that they did it, yes, you would have to pay, but we're going to waive it because this doesn't seem right.
So
And
Nathan, I have kind of a two-part question for you. The first one is, so you were put into an unfortunate circumstance where you were administratively separated from the Navy for medical reasons, right? But I think the lesson here is regardless of how bad things are or how bad things get, the silver lining is if you have support or if you know of support or if you can get support, right? So in this case, you had help from a good number of folks in your network, including the Military Transition Roundtable, and Matt, of course, was there to help. You had a lot of advocates in your corner to kind of help you struggle with you through this process, ultimately for it to get to the Navy's top brass and for them to waive this. How important would you say it was? Because could you have done this by yourself? I think that's the better question, and it's a pretty obvious answer. But from a veteran such as yourself who went through probably months and months of mental anguish, right? That's kind of what I want to know.
So yeah, I 100% couldn't have done this on my own. Military Transition Roundtable, Matt, the context I have in there, and it wasn't like, somebody in there had the answer. They just happened to know somebody who could help, and that person might know somebody. It was a massive spider web of people that we were able to work with and get this thing resolved. 100%, I owe all of this to the Military Transition Roundtable, Matt, and the team for helping me get this done.
And so now that this is kind of said and done, what advice do you have for transitioning service members, folks that may be in a very similar situation to what you were in? Is it just not second guess, but validate everything on your way out the door? Is it someone tells you that you're going to get separated and you know ethically you probably shouldn't? Is that the point where you stand your ground and say, I need this to be done correctly? And a lot of folks in the military just do things because that's the way it's always been done, or that's you're used to being ordered around, for the right reasons most part. But at this point, when you're separating, this is you taking care of you, right?
Right. Yeah, the big thing is just to know everything that you have the opportunities for. For me, I should have pushed for that medical board. And that was something I should have asked about and pushed to get. Also, make sure you have a copy of all the documents. I was never given an official copy of that reenlistment contract. I signed one, and that they just never got back to me. I should have jumped on that. So for all of military members that see this, make sure you have everything. I know that's something that we get told in the service is like, hey, make sure you have a copy of everything. And normally you use the digital platform, your OMPF. Well, in my case, it wasn't there, and I had to go find it. So sometimes you need that paper backup. Don't just rely entirely on one storage medium for it.
I want to throw a shout out to both of the parent organizations that kind of help out here. Both the Military Transition Roundtable. It is a bunch of colleagues that have been there. They've done that. They're doing this nonprofit wise to help veterans move forward, such as your case, and of course miltrack.org, the military transition calendar and website. Right, just another great resource out there that people are grateful for that gives folks options, especially as you were making your way from the Navy into the civil sector. You had a friend, you had a network, you had a strong connection to the outside that enabled you to move on to chapter two, right? Not everyone is so lucky because maybe they weren't as proactive as you are, but that's what we're here for. That's the reason we try to produce as many resources as possible. I have one thing, so every time I talk, I ask every veteran, do you know what UCX is by chance?
I do not.
It's unemployment compensation for ex-service members. That's also on miltrack.org. It's like workman's compensation, right? When you are looking for jobs between jobs, and it's specifically for military members, and the pay rate is actually synonymous with your pay grade, but I almost at the 30-year rate. And so you probably didn't know this, but you had some cushion as you were traversing, the civilian landscape between the military and your first civilian job. That option was out there for you. So hopefully we can share the word and let people know that that option is there to help you because as you pay into FICA and FICA Social Security, all those things pay into the unemployment index. So it's just good for people to know. They would just need to go on miltrack.org and type in UCX and they'll be able to see the article. Matt actually wrote it, so it's good.
Oh yeah, Matt's always great about stuff like that. So 100%. If Matt wrote it, it's 100% worth it.
Yeah, yeah. So we're going to keep this somewhat short because people don't really like listening to talking heads for 10 to 15 minutes. But Nathan, I am so thankful that you shared your story about something that went completely wrong but had a happy ending. And I think if there was a message to be had to give to folks that are tuning in, what would that message be from your heart to theirs?
Even though things might not be right now, if you keep working hard at it, it will turn around. It could be years down the line, like it was me, or it might be months. It might even be longer than me, but there will be a silver lining and things will get better. Never give up, never give up on yourself. And if you need somebody to believe in you, I will.
Nice. Love it. Hey, so thanks for tuning in to the folks that are watching. And Nathan, thank you for joining me and Matt on today's call. This has been another episode of the Military Transition Roundtable. Hope to see you guys next time.
Have a good day, everybody.